let's say the Pistons are really interested in Cody Williams and they believe Cody Williams, who they could pick at 5, will probably be there at 10. Utah has the 10th pick. There's been a lot of talk of Utah wanting to move up. Let's go get the 10th, 29th pick and maybe take on one of their contracts for an additional asset for our 5th pick.
Yeah, I mean, take on Colin Sexton. I don't know.
Right? Or even a John Collins. I know that like it sounds unappetizing to Pistons fans who haven't. I know they want to go out and get a Brandon Ingram or they want to go out and get an OG Anunoby. And I understand that completely, but I'm also saying I'm starting to understand the mindset that Trajan's using, because at first I had the same feeling. I was like, I don't know if that's really the right mentality for this team. I don't know if that's like the right direction for them to go, because I really feel like with Cade kind of blossoming into that star that we all know he can be, shouldn't you go out and maximize that potential? But I think in order to maximize that potential, you have to maximize the assets you have, and you have to accumulate a lot more assets, because to be completely frank with you, the Pistons have no picks to trade, right?
No.
All their picks are pretty much locked up because of the Stewart trade back in 2020. So they need to go out and get other teams' first round picks, not just meaningless second round picks. They need to go get first round picks in order to go make a trade like that in the future, in order to make those steps. And that's not saying they're just going to turn over and be bad this season. They're going to get what they want, but they're also going to get assets for the things that they want, if that makes any sense.
What I will say, and then we can move on to the next segment, is I think a lot of Pistons fans' view of what Trajan wants to do is a very black and white subject where there's no room in the middle to where you can take on a contract and still get a good player. People think, oh, I'll just use this player as an example, and I hope it doesn't happen. If it does, I don't know, maybe I'll do something stupid. Like Ben Simmons, right? Okay. He's got 1 year left on his deal. People think, oh, we're just going to take on Ben Simmons for a year and use like $40 million of our cap. I don't really think it's that black and white. I think there's some ground room in the middle to where there are some players that are on some mid-tier to larger deals that can come in and help this team win more basketball games. I don't think it's so drastic the way some fans are arguing right now on Twitter, as we're doing this podcast right now, probably about all these guys on big contracts that are going to use like 90% of our cap space.
You know, I like, because again, I felt that same way initially. I was like, you know, like, okay, what, you're going to go out and get Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons was really a name that was brought up, right? I heard Ben Simmons. I was like, you know, like, is that really what we're going to do? I think with the new CBA coming into effect, and with a lot of teams approaching a second apron who aren't contending or aren't in the space to contend yet, or need to make moves in order to contend, a lot of teams will be looking to get off of money this summer. And I look at maybe someone like Andrew Wiggins, or I look at, you know, maybe even Zach LaVine, let's see, DeAndre Hunter, who else comes to mind?
Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah, because those are all guys. So like, let's say Andrew Wiggins. Let's use Andrew Wiggins as an example. The Pistons have been known to have interest in Tobias Harris, right? We all know they have a lot of interest in signing Tobias Harris, bringing him here. Would you rather sign Tobias Harris, or would you rather take on Andrew Wiggins and get like a Moses Moody also, you know, for taking on that contract? So I don't think it's going to be as bad as we've kind of been conditioned to think it will be. And I don't blame anybody who really like has a lot of hesitancy towards like the taking on bad contracts. I just think what is seen as a bad contract is changing because of the new CBA. So a bad contract last year was Joe Harris, and we all know how that went. You're not going to go get a Joe Harris this year. You're going to probably end up with a player who that is in a tier of a player you would probably want to go out and sign anyways. Teams are just going to be looking to make cap space if they're not where they need to be.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I think sometimes we get so reactionary to any kind of news we hear, and we always expect the worst because why wouldn't we? I mean, we're Pistons fans. Like, we're gonna overreact to everything.
Yeah.
But I think Trajan, to your point, is a smart enough guy that where he's not going to get fleeced. He's not going to help the New York Knicks so they can sign Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
He's not gonna do any of that. I think he knows what he wants, and he's probably gonna go get it, and he's probably gonna get a pick in the meantime.
I think that's exactly like the plan. And I don't think that means they're not going to try and be a lot better this year. I just think it will look a lot different than we were expecting it to look. And I truly am very curious because like I hear things, right? And whatever, I don't report everything I hear, but a lot of the things that I've heard before Trajan really got settled in was like the Pistons are going to be aggressive. They're going to be looking to, build around Cade and Asar. Now it seems more like, okay, what do we have in Ivy? What do we have in Duran? And I think they really want to explore that young core. And I think that's a positive development, especially if you think that Monty Williams last year didn't help their development. If anything, he might have hurt their development. So if you truly believe that, then totally go out and get assets while also helping this team win more games. Like, I think we all are thinking, I don't know, like the 2000 whatever, the Sixers, the process Sixers, right? Where they just take on and trade away. You know what I mean? Like they're not trying to win. I think if there is a blueprint for this team, it might not be the Rockets from last season like we thought it was going to be. It might be more like the Utah Jazz from the last couple of years, where they go out and acquire players who can help them, and they also acquire bad contracts who also can still provide help on the court. I know they haven't made the play-in the last couple of years, but if they were in the Eastern Conference, maybe not this past year, but the year before, they would have made the play-in. They had 37 wins, and I believe Chicago this year had like 35, and they made the play-in. So I think this team is going to be a lot more competitive, and the whole thing of we might not win every game, but we're going to be competitive and we're going to play winning basketball every game is exactly that type of identity. And if I'm a Pistons fan, I go and look at a team like Utah the last couple of years and I go, okay, that might be what we're looking at.
Yeah, I agree. I think Utah is a good team to look at. I think what OKC's done over the past couple of years of taking on bad contracts for draft capital is definitely an avenue that I think some Pistons fans should look at.